Hopefully you'll remember that when we've talked about solving quadratic equations in the past, we've always said that your quadratic equation should be equal to 0. So you should have something in the form of the general form. Which is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So typically when we solve quadratic equations, we try to make sure they're always equal to 0. This is the most important part, usually. Okay, and now there's one exception to that, and that's what we're going to look at today. And that's when we have a quadratic equation in the form of x plus p squared equals c. Okay, now c and p are just numbers. C is just some sort of integer. Okay, or not. It can also be a non-integer, but it's just a number. And in this case, most people would be tempted to firstly expand the brackets and then move the c over. So for example, if we have x plus 4 squared equals 25, most people are tempted to firstly go, okay, it's not equal to 0, so what I've been taught in the past is that I'm going to make it equal to 0. So I'm going to move the 25 over, then expand the brackets, then work everything out. The problem with doing that is you're actually making it harder for yourself. Okay, if we give you a question in this form, the whole reason is that we want you to be able to solve it quickly. Okay, and what we want you to do in this case is firstly think about it. You have something squared equals something. Okay, so what we can do is we can just take the square root of both sides. So on the left, we will have x plus 4 equals, so that's the square root of the left side. The square root of the right side is going to be the square root of 25. Okay, you have to then remember that we also get a negative. Okay, so then we also say, sorry, my screen's going a bit everywhere today. We also have or x plus 4 equals the negative square root of 25. All right, so these are our two solutions, and from here we can work our way through. Okay, now it's really important that you don't skip any steps here, because when I see people skipping steps, that's when they make mistakes. Okay, so x plus 4 equals the square root of 25 is 5, and then if we minus 4 from both sides, we get x is equal to 5 minus 4, which is 1. All right, on this side we have x plus 4 equals negative 5. All right, and again we're going to minus 4 from both sides, and we get x is equal to minus 9. Okay, so we have our answer, x is equal to 1 or x is equal to minus 9. Okay, so this is when an equation is in the form of something squared equals something. Okay, now there are a few things you need to think about here. Firstly, we can also have numbers in front of the brackets. Okay, so we might have something like 3x plus 2 squared equals 48. Okay, so if you have a situation like this, we have this number out the front of the brackets that we need to deal with first. Okay, so we don't just take the square root, because if you take the square root, you also have to consider that 3. So the first thing we're going to do here is divide everything by 3. Okay, so then we have x plus 2 squared is equal to 48 divided by 3, which is 16. Okay, now we can take the square root because we have something squared equals something. So firstly, you just need to get it so that the term being squared is isolated. Okay, so now we have x plus 2 equals root 16, or x plus 2 equals negative root 16. Now we can simplify this, so we get x plus 2 equals the root of 16 is 4, or x plus 2 equals the negative root of 16, which means negative 4. Okay, if we now minus 2 from both sides, oops, I'm just doing one equation at the moment. minus 2 from both sides here. Then we get x is equal to 4 minus 2, which is 2, or on the other side we're going to also minus 2 from both sides, and we get x is equal to minus 4 minus 2, which is minus 6. Okay, and these are our solutions, x equals 2 or x equals minus 6. Alright, now this is, the first step, okay, but just some general rules that we have for this. Okay, so we said that we were looking at equations in the form of x plus p squared is equal to c. Okay, now the important thing here is this c term. Alright, you guys could see in most of our examples here, or all of the ones we've done so far, that we've gotten 2 answers. Okay, and that's because our c is positive. So if c is greater than 0, okay, that means positive, then we get 2 solutions. Okay, now there are some different situations we can have. If c is equal to 0, okay, then we get something different. Okay, so let's have a look at what we get there. So if we have, for example, x plus 4 squared equals 0. Alright, now we can take the square root of both sides, and then we get x plus 4 equals the square root of 0, or the negative square root of 0. But what's the square root of 0? Yeah, it's just 0. So we just get x plus 4 equals 0, and x equals minus 4. So if c is equal to 0, we get just 1 solution. Okay, the third situation is if c is less than 0, okay, or if c is negative. And let's have a look at that. So let's go x plus 4 squared equals minus 2. Alright, now if we do this, we get x plus 4 equals the square root of negative 2, or x plus 4 equals the negative square root of negative 2. Now hopefully you remember from last year that we can't take the square root of a negative number. This is a negative number here under the square root, and there are no real solutions to this. Okay, at some point in the future, if you do Wiskunde D, you'll learn a little bit more where you can actually solve this. Okay, but there are no real solutions, so no real solutions. Okay, and what this means is that if c is less than 0, there are no solutions. Okay, so we can't find a value for x. Okay, so these are our general rules. So firstly, simplify it down so that you have something squared equals c. Okay, then take the square root of both sides and solve from there. Alright, this will save you a lot of time in preference to expanding the brackets, moving the c over, and then trying to factorize or use the ABC formula. Okay, this is much easier.